Hello to all our audience tuning into our channel. We're so glad to have you with us. Stay tuned for exciting content. Let's get started.
The story begins at a wedding where Mary Fiore, a professional wedding planner, is managing the ceremony. She's shown to be highly organized and dedicated to her work, with her assistant Penny helping coordinate the event. The wedding planner's life appears glamorous from the outside, but Mary's personal life is far from romantic. Mary lives with her Italian father, Salvatore, and is a member of the Bay Area Scrabble Club, having learned the game to connect with her father after her mother's death. Her father has arranged for her to marry Massimo Lenzetti, a childhood acquaintance from Italy who has arrived in San Francisco with plans to marry Mary and start a family with 3 sons and a garden of tomatoes. At her workplace, Mary works for Jerry and has been pushing for a partnership. She's been bringing in significant revenue for 5 years and threatens to start her own company if she doesn't get promoted. Her colleague Penny serves as both her assistant and confidant. While rushing to meet a potential new client, Mary has an accident involving a dumpster in the street. A pediatric doctor named Steve Edison saves her from being hit, and she's taken to St. Vincent's Hospital Children's Ward, where Steve works. During her recovery, Steve mentions that Mary smells like sweet red plums and grilled cheese sandwiches. Penny arrives at the hospital and, determined to help Mary get back into dating after her relationship with Keith ended 6 years ago, invites Steve to join them at an outdoor movie screening in Golden Gate Park. Despite Mary's protests, Steve agrees to come along. At the park, Mary and Steve share popcorn. Mary only eats the brown M&Ms because she believes they have less artificial coloring, and Steve reveals his background in ballroom dancing from childhood classes. They dance under the stars to the movie's soundtrack, creating a romantic moment that leaves Mary feeling things she hasn't felt in years. Steve mentions his upcoming Scrabble match, inviting Mary to attend. Their connection is immediate and genuine, and they almost kiss before the evening ends. Mary returns home with stars in her eyes, unable to stop smiling, which Penny immediately notices. Mary's happiness is short-lived when she attends a dance class with her friend and potential client, Francine Donnelly. Fran introduces Mary to her fiancé, Eddie, who turns out to be Steve Edison, the same man who saved Mary and with whom she shared the magical evening in the park. The revelation creates immediate tension. Steve explains that Eddie is a nickname and that he was running late to meet his wedding planner, Mary, when the accident happened. Mary feels betrayed and accuses Steve of being a cheating, confused man who doesn't really want to get married. Their confrontation at the dance class is explosive, with both denying their attraction while clearly still feeling it. Despite her personal feelings, Mary decides to continue planning Fran and Steve's wedding. She's determined to be professional and not let her emotions interfere with her career ambitions. The Donnelly wedding represents a major opportunity. If she succeeds, Gary will make her a partner. Fran wants an elaborate wedding in 3 months, choosing locations, flowers, and even selecting "I Honestly Love You" by Olivia Newton-John as their wedding song. Mary's professional experience tells her this marriage won't last. She predicts couples who choose that song typically divorce within 14 months, but she keeps her opinions to herself. The wedding party travels to Napa Valley to scout vineyard locations. Mary brings Massimo along, introducing him as her fiancé to avoid suspicion about her feelings for Steve. The weekend becomes complicated when Fran's parents, particularly her demanding mother, create additional pressure. During the trip, Massimo bonds with Steve through manly bonding activities, including horseback riding, where Mary gets thrown from her horse and Steve rescues her again. Their physical attraction remains undeniable, despite the complicated circumstances. Later, during a private conversation, Steve and Mary have a heart-to-heart where Steve admits he was attracted to Mary the night they met and was initially uncertain about his marriage to Fran. However, he insists that seeing Mary again has convinced him more than ever that Fran is right for him. Mary, hurt, calls his theories about love the rantings of a bitter and cynical woman. Back in San Francisco, Mary continues wedding planning while trying to suppress her feelings. During a museum visit to select statues for the wedding, she and Steve accidentally break a statue's penis, and Steve gets his finger glued to it with crazy glue, leading to an awkward but bonding moment with a security guard. Fran leaves town for a business trip, leaving Mary and Steve to work together on wedding details. Their chemistry remains strong as they select flowers and discuss wedding arrangements. Steve shares stories about how he and Fran met in college, describing her as a former bookie who ran an underground gambling ring at UC Berkeley. Mary encounters her ex-fiancé Keith with his pregnant wife Wendy at a flower market. This meeting brings back painful memories of how Keith left Mary for Wendy, whom Mary had trusted enough to have throw her bridal shower. The encounter leaves Mary devastated and drunk. Steve takes care of Mary that evening, walking her home and listening to her pain about Keith's betrayal. In a vulnerable moment outside her apartment, Steve admits that he thinks about their night in the park and knows the curves of her face and every fleck of gold in her eyes. Despite their connection, Mary tells him to stay away, citing her pattern of attracting unavailable men. Fran returns early from her business trip with doubts about the wedding. She's realized she can't stand Steve's small habits and fears he'll be the last man she ever sleeps with. Mary, ironically, has to counsel Fran back into the marriage, using the same techniques she uses with nervous brides. At Bert's birthday party, Massimo makes a public proposal to Mary, offering her security and devotion. Under pressure from the moment and her father's expectations, Mary accepts, even though her heart isn't in it. On the day of Fran and Steve's wedding, everything begins to unravel. Fran gets cold feet and asks Steve why she should marry Steve. Realizing she can't lie anymore, tells Fran that he loves her, Mary is and will make her happy, but the words feel hollow. Meanwhile, Mary is preparing for her own quickie wedding to Massimo at City Hall. Penny is left to manage Fran's wedding alone when Mary leaves for her ceremony. Just as Fran is about to walk down the aisle, she and Steve have an honest conversation. Steve asks Fran why she wants to marry him, forcing both of them to confront the truth that they're marrying out of habit and comfort rather than love. They realize they've grown into different people since college and mutually decide to call off the wedding. When Penny learns that Mary is getting married, she panics and tells Steve, who realizes he's about to lose the woman he truly loves. Mary's father, Salvatore, reveals to her that he had an arranged marriage with her mother. They met on their wedding day, and initially neither wanted the marriage. However, when Salvatore became ill with scarlet fever, Mary's mother cared for him, and their relationship grew from appreciation to respect to deep love. This revelation helps Mary understand her father's perspective on love and marriage. At the courthouse, just as the judge asks if anyone objects to Mary and Massimo's union, Steve bursts in to object. Massimo, showing his true nobility, also objects, admitting that Mary doesn't love him and that he's been selfish in pursuing her. Salvatore supports Steve, recognizing that his daughter's happiness matters more than his own plans. Massimo gracefully steps aside, blessing Mary's choice and proving himself to be a good man who wants her genuine happiness. The story concludes with Mary and Steve finally free to be together. Steve finds Mary at their special place, and she's eating only the brown M&Ms again, referencing their first meeting. When he asks why, she explains it's because someone once told her they had less artificial coloring, and it kind of stayed with me. She then tells him, "You kind of stayed with me." Steve reveals that Fran is in Tahiti on what would have been their honeymoon, having decided to discover what she really wants in life. When Mary asks what Steve wants, he simply answers that he wants to dance with her, bringing their story full circle to that magical night in Golden Gate Park. The film ends with the promise of their relationship finally beginning properly, free from the complications that kept them apart. Both have learned valuable lessons about authentic love versus settling for comfortable arrangements, and both have found the courage to pursue their true feelings despite the obstacles.